people? Welcome to another week's The Live Life the Rest of the Show. Sincere Hogan, that's me. Let's see, who's that other doing another line? That's Mike Mahler. Hey, man, what's up?
That's me. Still
got a little tricky for a minute because I'm looking at Skype, and as soon as I started talking, it's like a picture dropped down, but it was actually, I guess, it's his picture. I thought it was you, and I thought you got dropped, so I was about to go into
as soon as you started talking, Ted Rice popped up on the screen.
It's like, so guys, I'm like, no, that was you. You were last week, buddy.
I had such a good time last week. I thought I was
just gonna hang out on Skype and wait for you guys this week.
Man, we have a lot to talk about. We have a great guest today, and he's a big UFC fan as well. So we're definitely going to talk about UFC 96. That was a fun one. At least the main event and the co-main event were fun. The rest of that card was that was a snooze fest.
I was trying my best not to drink coffee at that time of the night, but they were forcing the issue.
So. Yeah, when you have to drink a cup of coffee, when you're watching the UFC and you're thinking, a cup of coffee would be nice right now.
And it's 8 o'clock in the evening, like, no, it might be nice. Just turn the channel, man.
So before we get to our guest, though, we have some VIPs that have been using that code LLA to get 10% off the best nutrition supplements money can buy. We have Gibran Britt, Chet Sandberg, and Chet's a longtime supporter, Dana Koliani, Ravi Singh, Roland Showman, and Roland is actually an Olympic level swimmer. He's going to be competing in the next Olympics. He's out of he's from South Africa. He lives in Arizona right now for his training. Really interesting guy. So thank you, Roland. And here we go. Here's a guy who's actually paying for some great supplements instead of endorsing crap he doesn't use. So that's a good lesson for a lot of athletes out there. We have Vinny M, Kyle Anderson, Ed Frank, Donald Motley, and William Maida.
Now, that Robbie Singh that you have right there, is he from Houston?
Yes, yeah, I think so.
So that's one of my buddies right there, old DJing buddy from back in the day.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah, when you said that. But then I was like, okay, Robbie Singh is a very common name. So let me just make sure before I said, hey, that's my boy. Like, nah, it's not. But yeah, if it's from Houston, yeah, that's my buddy Robbie.
Robbie, so R-A-V-I?
Yeah, that's him.
Okay.
So yeah, man, good looking out for him. Cool, man. And also a big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters out there on patreon.com/LLA podcast. Continue to support us on a monthly basis. Also, want to give a shout out to one of our VIPs, Maria Peden, who actually bumped up her monthly donation. So keep seeing the bump ups going on here, man. And saw a couple of people chatting back and forth on the fan page, like, it might be time to, start supporting on Patreon. Yes, it is. So come in, let's make it happen, man. Become one of those monthly supporters. Otherwise, head to both our websites, MikeMahler.com and NewWarriorTraining.com. Use that coupon code LLA. Get 10% off of all of our products. If you can buy it, you can get a discount on it, man. 10% off. Just use that coupon code. And continue to be a VIP to support this show. We appreciate that.
Yeah, we appreciate the bump ups, and I'm sure you guys appreciate not getting rear-ended, because when you listen to our show, you get some great content.
Our guest started this whole little bum thing, before we started recording, and now it seems like bum is going to be the theme.
Oh, we're going to have some bum talking points too, because that also relates.
We're going to talk about some bums, and then we're going to talk about some nice bums that, that competed against each other. So.
Yeah, but also to quote our good friend Prince Bell regarding Red, the first transport is away. And that's you Star Wars dorks out there. I just saw him place an order, so Prince does a great Star Wars channel on YouTube, and he dresses up like Mace Windu or some Jedi Knight from.
So of all the Jedi Knights, you had to pick the one black one, huh?
And then he goes out of his way to talk like a white guy, though, on the show. So that's an interesting juxtaposition there.
Yeah, that's why when you said Mace Windu, I'm like, he doesn't sound like Mace Windu.
Dresses like Mace Windu, talks like Ben Kenobi on there. No, but his YouTube show is great. If you're a Star Wars fan, I mean, like I was telling Sincere, I tuned in one time just to be supportive. I was like, I'll watch a little bit of this just to say I did. And I ended up watching 3 or 4 clips in a row. So he does a fantastic job.
Yeah, he's putting the time and work in that bad boy, man. So something can be said, man, by actually following your passion. It'll show. No one will ever have to question how much you're into something, man, or if it's even, worth your time. They can just tell by your energy, and he's putting the energy into that. So there's some people that tell you about what they're doing, like, oh, man, so what's up with you? Oh, man, just doing this, then still blah, blah, blah. That's not exciting. Just save that conversation. We're good. Let's just move on to something else. But there's some people, even if you're not like Mike said, he's not even a Star Wars fan, but you kind of think like, shit, okay, this is pretty cool. Cause he's just the energy that Prince gives off about this, man. And that makes you that makes you interested. At least for that moment. I'm pretty sure once you logged off, you're like, okay, and I'm back.
Well, I'm a fan. I'm just not someone who celebrates with the
hard, yeah.
Princess Leia panty night or something along those lines.
You never wore panties, man.
Yeah, they don't wear panties in outer space. What are you talking about?
Panties on Alderaan, man. What's wrong with you?
No, but actually, you bring up a good point because our guest today also has a great YouTube channel, and I was watching one of his clips before we started recording today, and he has a great clip talking about the myth of overnight success. Overnight success is usually 10 years of hard work and determination, and then different things converge where people know about you, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, wow, this guy came out of nowhere.
Right. Well, it's because they were not hanging out in nowhere all those years with him. That's why.
Like they came out of some vortex, some alternate universe.
Vacuum. Exactly.
Came out of nowhere. I love sayings like that. They're so moronic. It just gives mediocre people an excuse to keep being mediocre. But our guest today is Mark Leruste, and he's the author of It's Not You, It's Me. And that's a pretty cool title right there. And he's not even talking about another person. So we'll talk to him about that in a second. And he has a coaching business in London. He went to the Coaches Training Institute after just being totally distraught with his previous job, and then things really changed. How you doing today, Mark?
I'm good, mate. Thanks, guys, for having me.
Oh, it's good to have you, man. A lot of interesting stuff to talk about, but I know you're a huge UFC fan as well. So let's talk about.
I was on the edge of my seat as you guys. As soon as you started talking about the 196 card, I was just like, ooh, there's some juicy stuff right there.
Yeah, very true. Now, what's interesting is it's funny how everyone got it wrong. In fact, I was reading sincere actually.
I was 0-2.
Yeah, exactly. And you usually, I was going to say, you usually have pretty good predictions.
Hey man, I'm usually put it like this. I'm a big man. I sat there and I sat there and took it in. I was like, okay, I put it on Twitter. And I put my predictions out there, and when I was all wrong, trust me, I owned it. I was like, okay, I'm 0-2 for the night. And even Joe DeFranco and I agreed, we're going to just stick to training athletes, man. Just talking about gambling and betting on the UFC, not our thing.
Well, it's funny how everyone got it wrong because all the experts on Bleacher Reports, any MMA website, you can imagine, they all got it wrong. Now, my take was that I didn't think Nate Diaz would win. I wanted him to win. I didn't think he would win, but if he did win, I thought it would be by submission. I thought if Conor won, it would be by decision. I just didn't think he would put Nate away. I didn't see that happening.
One thing I was looking for, everybody asked me, like, what do you think? I was like, okay, I'm going with a TKO from Conor in the second round. I said, but I truly hope this is a bloody war that goes all 5 rounds, which means it could have gone anywhere at that point, because we know these judges usually they're high, they're on crack, and anything can happen right there. So that's what I was hoping for. I didn't want it to be easy. I didn't want it to be like McGregor and Aldo, where it's like boom, over. I didn't want to see that, man. I wanted, especially after those boring ass fights before that, man. I'm just like, come on, man.
What was interesting though is when you saw Conor land that left many times and it didn't put Nate away, you saw his confidence go down. There was a change and you saw Nate's confidence go way up. It's like, I can take that shit all night.
But he usually does, probably with his brother, Yeah,
I was going to say for me, I started getting worried for Conor during the videos, the embedded series.
Yeah.
When you were seeing him in like having 2 breakfasts and you kept on going on about, I would go to bed with a belly full, I wake up with a belly full. And I just started thinking that's going to probably affect his performance.
Especially when that's not his norm. That is not his norm.
Yeah,
We've trained usually cutting and getting ready. So the thing is, he got too comfortable. Like, oh, I don't have to do anything this time around. I walk around at this weight. I mean, neither one of them even made 170.
Well, I think it's just too heavy a weight class for him. Is the lesson he learned. One, Nate is not really a natural 170 either. Both of these guys just came in with their walk around weight. Is what happened. Like some people are saying, oh, he went up 2 weight classes. Not really.
No,
he went up and fought a 155 without having to cut weight.
Yeah, most fighters drop down 2 weight sizes, people. You got it back.
If he fought Robbie Lawler, that's going up 2 weight classes. And I think we can all say after this fight, he would have gotten destroyed by Robbie Lawler.
That would have been your mind, young man.
You would have felt sorry for him in that fight.
Yeah.
That would have been brutal.
That would have been tough.
But I was going to bet heavy on RDA if that fight went down, because I just thought it was a really bad style matchup for Conor, and this fight confirmed that, because once it went to the ground, it was game over for him.
Nick he just put a stamp on what so many fighters have discovered with Conor. That ground game needs work. It needs some work, man. And because he's good with the grind, he's good standing. But the thing, once again, he looks very uncomfortable on the ground.
Well, he's also good with fighting little guys in a weight class that is not natural for him. He's not a natural 145 by any means of the stretch. When you look at him at the weigh-ins for 145, he looks like Skeletor. He looks like he's about to die.
Right.
155 would probably be his natural weight class, but definitely not 145. So he makes 145 somehow, and then he gets back to his normal weight before the fight.
Right.
So he's way bigger than the guys at 145.
In the post-fight interview, he basically said that those shots would have basically brought down guys of my normal weight category, but basically Nate just ate them. And he must have thought himself, fuck this. I mean, when he went to second round, you could just see he started being flat-footed. Yeah. He wasn't moving his head as much. I was just thinking, this is not going to end up well.
Yeah. He tried to finish, I think, so he was just throwing everything he had.
Yeah.
And it wasn't working.
First round was good, though.
Yeah, I think
he won the first round. Yeah, he definitely won the first. He won the first round, but he needed to finish in the first round because he didn't have much left for the second round. I think
you kind of see that look on his face. And again, you're fighting a lot heavier, so he's kind of gassing. The energy just really wasn't there. But the real good thing about the entire fight was just the going back and forth before. After the fight. It was the best. For a fight that was put on for only 9 days, that was the best 9 days ever, man. I mean,
it was hilarious.
There was some true gold being thrown back.
It was going to be explosive. And it's funny because when you mentioned about you should have tried to put him out, it reminded me of the Bisping against Silva fight in the second round. And he dropped him and he just gave everything he had. He just dropped bombs and it just must have taken and sapped out all his energy.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, but let's talk about those the decisions, the 3 fights before that.
Oh, we don't need to talk about
Or better yet, the 3 fights before that fight before that one. Okay, so because ladies put on a good fight. Like I put on Facebook, I had a post like, the rear naked choke was the real MVP of the night. Yeah. It was the real MVP. So, but of course, it's always funny how, people kind of pick things and kind of run with it. Like, everybody does this and that, doing that. But, one thing about it, jiu-jitsu wins every time. Like, come on, people. Come on,
that's so stupid. It's easy to say that when someone does win with it, but we've seen jiu-jitsu people get knocked out before because they don't have good stand-up skills.
Exactly.
So it's kind of a silly argument.
Jiu-jitsu. I mean, can we? First of all, don't be so disrespectful to the fighters that you take away from their other skills. It's not like it wasn't a jiu-jitsu match. Okay, it wasn't.
Well, I mean, Nate says that he uses his jiu-jitsu after using his great striking. In other words, he puts so much pressure with his striking that they want to go to the ground, and then that's where he wants to go too. And then he can finish them there, and that's what happened with Conor.
Uses it as a tool, as so many other things that we always talk about. It's not always this one thing. It's always a tool. Whether, just like we say in the strength game, all these people try to say the kettlebells are the answer for everything. Like a certain clip that you sent me, Mike, just kind of funny how people were dancing around that subject, but these were the same people that actually acted like, kettlebell was the end all be all. But now to hear them singing different things and acting as if they never said that.
Well, what's funny about that clip is they're like, oh, this is how you passed all the big dogs in the kettlebell world. I was like, oh God. I was like, you either are just totally delusional or you have no assessment of the landscape. But anyway, we can do another show on that.
Well, Dave Chappelle already did it. Cocaine is a hell of a drug. Okay.
I just want to pick up on something that Sensei just said, which I think is really interesting around people focus on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as like the finisher, but when you look at it, it's what's amazing is that the Diaz brothers got this really highly entertaining and brutal boxing style.
Yes.
That is just going to punish. They just punish their opponents because they just keep on jabbing. Yeah. And the boxing. And then once they get them down to the ground, that's where you see where you can see a black belt against a purple belt.
Right.
And especially like when the Diaz comes from the Cesar Gracie kind of background, and it's just insane. I mean, I couldn't believe how quickly he got Conor to tap out. I mean, it was compared to when Holm, she went out like a champ. She was like boxing. I don't remember, just before she went to sleep, you can see her throwing a couple of jabs and then she's out.
Yeah.
And there's the big difference right there. And again, hell, even I actually had some people come, they sent me some tweets as well, even bringing up, okay, what was that about vegans now? Again, I was like, okay, that's one thing, maybe. That could be it or not, but I know what it was really directed.
No, but
it was more directed
toward
Ito Porto and what he said and this, that, and the other. And, Ito's working with Conor and there's all this big thing. And of course, they tagged Joe Rogan in a tweet as well. But I said, I think the real thing is Conor needs to work on his jiu-jitsu and his ground game. It wasn't so much that don't just seem like, okay, just because Nate, as a vegan, there's so much more.
Playing touch butt with Ito in the park may have some benefits. But he probably needs to spend more time on the beach. Nate's jokes were so funny. He's like, I'm boxing and doing jiu-jitsu, and he's like, you're playing touch butt with that dork in the park
with the ponytail.
He's like, that dork with the ponytail.
The noodle.
The best thing, man, when Conor kept saying, I'm going to treat you like what do you say, like an antelope, No, a gazelle. He said, I'm going to treat you like a gazelle, And then Nate goes, gazelle. Man, nobody even know what the hell that means. This is America, bitch.
You can tell a couple of times Conor just didn't know what to say back, which is the first time I've ever seen Conor. Like, he's just like.
Sorry to interrupt. But
no, go ahead.
I thought another thing that didn't you think that Conor looked a little bit stressed out walking in? I don't know if you remember when they were filming when he's arriving at the venue, and I felt he looked a little bit kind of. I don't know. I just felt he looked a little more stressed. And then you got Diaz super relaxed.
I think he looked a little bit. He looked a little less as cocky as normal. Yeah. I think also because that, this was for a win, if anything, but it wasn't for like the belt or something like that. And I think he also understood that I can't really get into this dude's head because that's what they do. They have been doing this whole getting in the head thing long before Conor even probably thought about fighting. So you really can't get into a Diaz brother's head. That's what they do. And guess what? They're going to do it throughout the entire fight. They're going to be in the octagon doing it to you. They're going to talk shit from beginning to end.
Yeah.
And
that's what they do to other people. So they're not going to fall for what they do to other people. What's funny is after the fight, they showed on YouTube his brother Nick's reaction, and Nick looks at the camera and he goes, "Oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey."
I was texting Mike. I was like,
it was so funny.
I was like, man, if I have to hear this freaking soccer chant, I swear to God, I'm gonna punch a kid in the face. God, I can't stand it. Make it stop, man. It's almost. I was like, okay, look, I predicted. I said that Conor would win. I said, but actually, I hope he loses so I don't have to hear the soccer chant anymore tonight.
The only reason I didn't have more confidence in Nate is because of the late notice. I felt if Nate had a full training camp, I wouldn't necessarily say for sure, oh yeah, he's going to go in there and win. But I would lean that way, especially he was a 4-1 underdog, which I thought was stupid. So I was planning on placing a small bet on both Miesha and Nate because I didn't feel that the betting spread made any sense at all.
But that's because one thing about people want to understand is that these guys, they train all year round. And I've heard them millions of times, even back in Strikeforce, always saying that you should always be ready to fight. That's why they're always doing triathlons in between fights and all that. So they're constantly doing something. They're not just sitting on their ass waiting for a call from Sean Shelby or something.
That's true.
Like that.
But Nate said he was on the beach in Cabo partying. When he got the call. So he was making fun of himself. He's like, my fat ass on the beach drinking beers.
But then again, I've never, correct me if I'm wrong, but as much as I've seen Nick kind of yo-yo a bit with his weight in between fights, Nate seems to be relatively at his, I guess he walked in at 170 because when they asked him to come in at 155, he said no way, and then they were arguing back and forth.
Well, his argument was, he goes, look, I'm only given 10 days notice, so why should I have to make weight? Which is a reasonable.
Right.
Yeah.
Reasonable.
No training camp and making weight.
Exactly. Right. That would be ridiculous. Yeah. He has to make weight in 10 days as well as prepare for a huge fight.
Well, I'm pretty sure the powers that be were kind of hoping for that, so therefore the Golden Boy would look really good that night because that would have really put the odds in Conor's favor. He agreed with that.
It makes things exciting though when these kind of upsets happen.
Exactly.
Because if it's just the same thing happening, like if Conor went in there and starched him in 15 seconds, that wouldn't have been exciting. That would have been boring. But like, all right, here we go again.
Right.
Now it's like, I wonder what's going to happen now when he goes back to 145 and fights, let's say, a Frankie Edgar, who's a really tenacious, tough dude.
And then you start thinking about a Nate and Robbie fight where it's just an all-out brawl. There's a possibility of that now.
You've got to think that when that happens, I kind of get a sense that people are going to start smelling blood. I think psychologically that's just going to change the way that people walk into that fight if they think that it's just been submitted.
Once someone's been beaten, you notice that other people beat that person too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like it's a Roger Bannister effect. Like, no one can do a 4-minute mile. Then he did it.
Exactly.
I can do that. So yeah, man. And that's like I said, the blood is out there now. And here come all the sharks at this point. So
yeah, and Frankie Edgar is a test for anyone.
Oh yes,
that guy has ridiculous energy and movement, and he's a pretty hard puncher as well.
Yeah.
And he has a good ground game. He's a great wrestler, which is Conor's weakness. So Frankie's probably thinking, man, I'm just going to take him down over and over and over.
Ground and pound and grind him out.
Which is what RDA would have done too.
Yeah, smoke him out, and then the cardio kicks in. It's just like, wow, he wasn't ready for that type of grind. And that's just that. that true wrestler's grind, a lot of folks are not ready for that. That is shown time and time again. A lot of times for a lot of folks, it's not an exciting fight, depending on who it is. But one thing about it, it's freaking effective. It's very effective. Nobody cares about that at that point. Like, you get your exciting fight once I get this belt, okay? First things first.
I mean, Cormier put that gut on Anthony Johnson and all of his body weight. And, I mean, it's like putting the moon on Anthony Johnson. Of course he got tired. You know?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that fight.
I'm telling you, but I mean, Mike and I, we text about this. I swear, though, which I don't think he will. But stranger things have happened. I don't think John will lose to Cormier, but God forbid, if Cormier beats John, I'm done. I'm not watching anymore. I'm out. I'm finished with the UFC. That's it.
I am too, because I really want to see John as champion again.
Yeah, I want to see him as champion again, and I want to beat the holy hell out of Cormier and shut him up. My gosh,
exactly. I'm so tired of that.
It's a different type of arrogance, but the booze at the weigh-ins. I mean, at the whole little unstoppable press conference right before the weigh-ins was hilarious. You know, Cormier's like, really? That makes a lot of sense. You're booing me. He's like, come on, man. He's like, here's a guy. He's like, you're going to boo me, and I've been sober. But, you know, now this guy's sober up. You're booing. You're not going to boo him, and I don't understand that. That just doesn't make any sense.
They boo him just because of the way he carries himself.
You're carrying yourself. You're being so arrogant and saying all this stuff, but you never truly won the belt from the champ. That is why you get booed, buddy. Okay, that is why.
There's that interview that Joe Rogan did. I don't know if you saw the snippet during the UFC
106. Yeah. That looks great.
The two of them. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to be a bit kind of, you know, Hollywoodized.
Yeah, sure.
But it's just, I am genuinely looking forward to listening to them going back and forth, because I feel like, I don't know, I'm confident. I mean, I think
Me too.
Jones is going to walk in there and he looks strong. I think. You know, I don't believe
he was winning as a fuck up all this time.
Come on. He was high, and on top of that, hold on. We're talking about his strength now. Don't forget, he picked Daniel and threw him like a little ladybug the last time they met. Okay, and he wasn't deadlifting 500 then. Okay, so just keep that in 600. Mind. It was 600. Yeah, so let's keep that in mind.
Squatting 500, deadlifting 600, you know, benching close to 400.
And then Daniel's going, come on, yeah, he's posting his videos. That's all cool. But don't think that I'm not doing the same thing when I'm training. I just don't post it. I'm like,
oh, you would be posting it, buddy.
I'm looking at you.
If you were doing that, you'd be posting it every day.
I'm looking at you, and I'm going to go ahead and say no. No, my brother. I'm not going to agree with you on that one. I don't see that happening. But
when you've been training for a long time, and someone says, "Oh, I can do this," you can kind of look at them and know whether that's true or not. You know, it's like, no, you don't do that. A few times I've been surprised, but most of the time I'm like, no. You're you're not deadlifting 600 and your back looks like that. It's like you have no back development at all. You know, I'm not talking about Cormier here. I'm just talking about making like a general point. It's like you have no back development at all. Like all the muscles that pop out when you've been working on deadlifts for years. Everyone has a certain look when you've been doing deadlift for a long time.
Your traps are still flat like that. You still look like like a cheap clothes hanger. Like, nah, no, 600. I don't think so. Yeah, but I got to say there was this one tweet that I saw that somebody posted said, Paige, Sage, Ronda, and Conor talking about the UFC hype train has officially been destroyed. So, which is a good thing in my opinion. Instead of having all these poster children.
I mean, all of those people, win or lose, are great for the sport.
Yeah.
You know, like I like Conor. I think Conor's a good guy, and I like what he brings to the sport. It makes things exciting. It's not always going to work your way. That's the gamble you take.
Exactly.
When you're that cocky and you lose, people are just going to be like, I knew that was going to happen.
And the good thing is, now you're even more excited because you're going to see how do they come back from this. And that's the reason why I think so many people are cheering for John. It's like, okay, now what? You went through all that madness and you're coming back. Will you be the same? So he's at an age where he can make a comeback. Unlike Anderson,
no, absolutely.
that was a little lackluster. It's just kind of like, well, what did you expect? Yeah, he was kind of afraid to pull the trigger or whatever. It's like, come on, man. It's just like it's been a while since he's been back in the octagon here when he fought Bisping or whatever. So
first of all, I thought Anderson won that fight. I thought that was a bad decision personally. And I could see it going either way because.
Wait, hold on. I just heard Mark take a.
Well, I mean,
either Mark is disagreeing with you or Mark is very bad.
No.
I didn't think Anderson won decisively, but I thought he did enough to win that fight. But I wasn't like, oh my God, that's the worst decision ever. He didn't do enough in the fifth round to cinch it for sure. He just left it in the hands of the judges, and then when you do that, who knows what's going to happen.
So for me, there's a few things, right? So first of all, I met Michael Bisping, and I will just leave it at that he wasn't the nicest person to me. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't even have like an inclination to
everyone who's met him has said that.
Yeah. The thing, I will say this. What it came down to was the volume of strikes that I felt that Michael Bisping was putting on Silva.
Yeah.
Felt more significant in terms of volume, but in terms of effectiveness and the sort of significant strike and the massive blows that Silva put on Bisping were more important.
Yeah.
And, that second round, I thought Michael had a chance to put him out. And then I think that third round, there's been a lot of back and forth arguments about that, about like the kind of the end of the third round and who was responsible for that, and Bisping should have been paying attention. And I get that.
That wasn't cool though, because Bisping. I mean, you could tell Bisping was distracted. He's pointing at something. The ref should have jumped in there.
Yeah. It was
and if the ref doesn't, the other fighter should at least have enough wherewithal to be like, okay, let me back off a minute, not knee him in the head when he's looking at the floor at the judge.
There's a camera angle. I don't know if you saw it. There's Herb Dean. Like he looks at Herb Dean. Herb Dean stops walking towards him. Like he takes like 2 steps towards Bisping. So Bisping is kind of like leaning forward to get the gum shield, and that's when Silva, throws his flying knee. And I don't know. There was that kind of like everybody got really excited about that. People were saying that he was out. Well, yeah, he looked pretty knocked out.
That was pretty bad.
I mean, he fell for him.
Yeah.
Oh my God, is it out? It's because it sounds like it buzzed at the right time. So I actually, you know what? I thought it could have gone either way. And I was, when they gave it to Bisping, I wasn't shocked. It wasn't like a.
Yeah, I wasn't shocked either. Yeah.
It wasn't for me the same as when Lawler fought.
Condit.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I thought Condit won that.
I did too. I thought Condit won.
I thought that. Yeah.
It must be tough for a fighter though when it's that close. Yeah. But I did feel Condit did enough in that fight overall to win. Yeah.
And you're in England, so you're also putting that. I don't know. Maybe that affects the judge in some way. I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
You're gonna have to beat Bisping in a bigger, devastating fashion than what. But at the same time, look at the face. I mean, that was the insane thing. You look at Bisping's face at the end of the fight.
Yeah.
Look at Anderson Silva's fight, and he's just like he looks like he just walked out of changing.
We've seen that before. We've seen that before. True. I mean, there was a few times GSP's face looked like somebody just ran over it over and over and over with a bulldozer.
Oh my God! Yeah.
And
after Johnny Hendricks,
Johnny Hendricks just looked like you're like, look, dude, I'm just gonna take your face. I'm gonna ram into a wall about 20 minutes straight. You good with that? Okay, cool.
Well, that was a bad decision as well.
Yeah.
And I thought. I mean, first of all, I bet on GSP that night, so I was happy he won, just from a personal perspective, but. I didn't think I was like, well, I was like, oh, well, there's more money down the drain than GSP. I was like, sweet. But I mean, come on now.
Yeah, that was, and then I remember Hendricks saying to during the press conference that I didn't pull the trigger, and Dana White was like, well, you're a fucking idiot because you only had 5 rounds to finish that. You should have pulled the trigger.
Well, I mean, a couple times he had GSP wobbly in that fight, and he's backed off. He didn't follow up. And again, look, I'm a guy on the couch watching this fight, so I'm not trying to sound like I'm not trying to sound like I'm some expert or I would do so much better if I were in there. I would be done in the first exchange, like, well, Mike just went down, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap that up.
But here's the difference with how we're discussing this compared to all these armchair people is the fact that, look, man, at the end of the day, we're not sitting there taking punches to the face, so we're not going to sit there and say, oh, well, so-and-so sucks. He needs to retire now.
No.
And those are the type of people that get on my nerves. But on the flip side of that, what also gets on my nerves is these flip-floppers. Like I had to bring up, like when we were watching the post-fight show, and Jay Glazer was like kissing Miesha Tate's ass, talking about, here's our favorite bantamweight champion. I'm like, dude, she's been champ for all of an hour. How's she your favorite? This is all. How are you speaking for the other 4 panelists when you say that? That kind of ticked me off. I'm like, come on, it's so much flip.
You're like, look, Jay, that's Brian's job, so don't.
That's Caraway's. That's let him do the ass kissing, okay? Come on. But yeah, when he said that, I was like, really, dude, did you just say that? Like, come on, here's our favorite bantamweight champion. I'm like, okay, had that been Ronda, that'd have been a different story. Or if Holly won again, it's like, oh, now she's a true champion, which we always knew, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, people just stand your freaking ground, man. It's okay.
That was a great fight because the pressure was on Miesha in the 5th round, right? And
oh yeah.
You know how many fights I've watched? Well, you know how many fights I've watched where the last round I'm like, why don't you just go for it? Because you're going to lose anyway, right? And no one ever does. And again, I'm a guy on the couch watching this, so I'm not saying that I'm some expert on MMA psychology. But Miesha actually went for it.
Yeah.
She took a risk. She was going to lose the fight anyway. Her corner gave her good advice to go, look, you're not going to win this fight unless you finish her. So you need to do something here.
Especially when you're fighting like the champ, man. Even if it's a close fight and it's the champ, you really don't want to take that chance and leave it to the judges because 9 times out of 10 it's going to go to the champ. Yeah. I mean, we saw that kind of with Gustafsson and Jones. It's kind of like that fight could have gone either way, but he's the champ, so they're not going. It's probably not going to be a draw. That's not going to happen, and and they're probably rarely going to ever give it to the challenger. So when you fight a champ, you just got to say, you know what, F it, here it goes.
Yeah, and I know that I met Gustafsson. He's a nice guy. I mean,
he seems like he would be. Yeah.
Yeah, he was just a genuine nice guy. Yeah. But you were just saying I was actually on my feet, and I was on my feet. I was just screaming. I was like, Miesha, just like take her down and choke her out. I just kept on screaming, and that's the point where she kind of rolled over. And I was like, oh my god.
I think that flip over the shoulder. It's kind of like when she grabbed her to flip her over her back. Yeah. For some reason, I had that flashback of Weidman doing that kick. I was like, no, don't do that.
Yeah, she kept it standing. She could have survived until the end of the round.
She grabbed her and got her to flip her over. I was like, no. It's just like you just knew. I'm like, she's already on your neck, and that's just going to tighten it more. I'm like, man. And I was like,
but like I said, though, it's nice to see Miesha take a risk and win rather than Holly's play it safe and win.
Right.
If that makes sense. Because it's just not exciting.
I mean, we've kind of seen that before from that camp. We saw that with Condit, kind of just trying to play it safe, a couple times and, in the past.
Against Nick Diaz.
Yeah. And also Clay Guida, so it seems like sometimes that is the advice they get out of that camp sometimes in certain fights, and it kind of, which pisses Dana off. For a minute there, he was just hating that camp.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good lesson for Holly, too, because she's not going to make that mistake again. She's a great athlete, smart girl, good camp. So next time she fights, whoever it is, she's not going to just try to squeak out a decision.
Now, here comes the real fun part. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was about to say, I thought Ronda Rousey would have been the first one to sort of kind of cheer about the opportunity. Apparently, she didn't even look at the the fight. I mean,
she was at a wrestling match. No, she was at.
Is that what it was?
She was like at like an amateur version of WWE wrestling match. PWG or something like that. She didn't even care. And it's funny because I heard like Mike Goldberg to my wonder what Ronda Rousey's thinking right now. And I text Mike I put like Goldberg says, wonder what Ronda Rousey's thinking right now. Sincere says, who gives a fuck? Because here, look, man. The thing is, she's like, okay, she's fought both of them. So, why even watch that right now? She's got her own issues. But here's the real question, folks. Mm-hmm. Now, they made all those announcements at UFC Unstoppable. All these fights coming up all the way up to UFC 199. There was really nothing said for UFC 200. So my thing is, especially because you pretty much have all your champions fighting before UFC 200. I'm like, so what kind of surprises what are we doing here for UFC 200? So I'm thinking, I told Mike this. I said, I'm thinking, now it can go one or two ways now with Miesha with the belt. Okay, so do we see Miesha versus Ronda at UFC 200? Because that'll give, Miesha enough time to rest, between now and July. Everybody else probably not so much, so that could happen. Now, and then with that strange twist of events, people think that Ronda may come back and that could set up Ronda Holly too, right on the anniversary of when Ronda lost the belt right around, November, or just so Miesha can throw another big FU to everybody, she wins. And it's Miesha and Holly too, which is still good for business. Again, it's going to happen again, probably right around the holidays at the end of the year. So that could be that's just my prediction. That could happen with that one out of all the stuff that's happened right now. And, Conor could go ahead and defend his belt in UFC 200. That gives him enough time to rest. It could be him and RDA, or it could be him just fighting, hopefully, Frankie at 145. That would be.
I think it'll be at 145. I think he's lost that 155 chance for now. Yeah, they're not. They basically
go back down to defend it.
And they basically implied. Yeah, Dana White basically implied that Conor should go back to 145, defend that, work his way back to another chance to be a 2 belt holder.
So so there's 2 fights I can see, but you still got a lot of. You got to put together some good stuff, and I'm sorry, don't go digging up old people. Like I'm seeing. Who's Frank Mir fighting? I think coming up, man.
Mark Hunt.
Mark Hunt. So it's kind of like these are not things you want to do for your UFC 200.
They could always do Ken Shamrock versus Hoist Gracie 4.
And I'm ashamed that happened. I'm ashamed that happened in my city. Houston is like, we couldn't have done better. And I was out of town when it happened. Thank goodness.
Well, you also had Kimbo and Dada. That was even more shameful.
Gosh, man.
I don't know if you listened to those. I think it was Joe Rogan that was interviewing someone about this around. It's the worst that could happen to, I think, to MMA when you get that kind of fights put up. It's just like, why would you do that? I mean, I get it.
It looks like a tough man contest as opposed to a professional.
It's like an old man contest. Okay.
No, I mean Dada versus Kimbo.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
It looked like how they got started, that backyard street stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody, come on, no one really wants to see that. If I want to see that, I can go back. I can start going partying again and going back to the clubs and waiting until 2:00 in the morning in the parking lot and just wait. Yeah. and then I'll record and put it on YouTube. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, that was terrible. That was terrible, man. And the fact that Shamrock lost, I'm like, come on, man. But there's a hint. Stop fighting. That was
a controversial knee. I don't know if you saw the fight, but it looked like a.
I did not. Was it free? And I still didn't see.
It was. It looked like a low blow. Yeah. Shamrock was in trouble. Although he had quite the delayed reaction to a low blow. Usually when a low blow happens, within seconds, you're like, that hurts. Not minutes. It seemed like 5 minutes later they finally kicked in.
Well, he's getting older, man. Maybe it takes a little time for the communication to happen down there. I don't know, man.
So. No, but when you look at some of these other events, you're going, UFC has nothing to worry about.
Exactly. They're not save your money. You have to buy up any more organizations.
Yeah, they're not sweating the competition, man. I can tell you that much. They're not sitting around in a boardroom going, okay, what are we going to do to stay ahead of the competition out there?
No, you don't.
Do you remember that article that came out? I think it was a report. I forgot who did it. I want to say it was a sports channel. You guys probably ESPN, was it? And then Dana White refused to see them. And they did an interview with Lorenzo Fedeli, was it? Yeah. And he basically talked about salaries. Do you remember this is like maybe 5 years ago? Something like that? And there was like this there was this big thing about basically how much money they were making and how much they were actually paying the fighters. And then it basically blew out of proportion, and Dana was really pissed off. And anyway, I mean, if you want to look it up, I think it's
well, what they're making versus what they pay the fighters is definitely.
Yeah, and that was
proportionate, that's for sure.
It's not boxing, okay? But it's not boxing, and there's always that, I think I've heard time and time again where he's trying to keep it, they want to keep it honest where it's not like boxing or whatever. I'm like, look, dude, if you factor in, of course, these guys know what they put on the line when they sign their contract and they know what they do to their lives or whatever else. But when you factor in what these dudes are doing to themselves in order to help you make that money. But again, I came from the music industry and I see that with record labels too. They do the same thing to their artists. What they're doing in the UFC is no different than you're going to see at Sony Records or MCA or somebody like. They do the same thing to their artists, which, the only thing is now artists don't have to worry about getting a record deal, with the internet and all that. Now with the fighters, different story. You got to start thinking about other things, along with being an athlete and being a pro fighter. You got to start thinking outside that octagon, man. And you do like BJ Penn. BJ doesn't have to come out of retirement ever. He was very smart with his business before that. I mean, with BJPen.com and his endorsements and products and all this other stuff and the marketing, he was doing all that while he was still, even when he was in his prime. He caught it then, not waiting till the end where you're pretty much like fading into oblivion with a lot of folks or just doing something like that. So it's just like he was very smart about that. And I don't understand how so many other fighters have not jumped on board with that and going beyond just think, well, when I'm not fighting, I'm going to coach at this gym, or I'm going to open up a gym, which is going to put me even more in debt. Okay. Because they're not charging that much for their members on a monthly basis. I mean, rarely is it ever over anywhere between 100 and 125, 150 bucks a month for their memberships there. And so, but 9 times out of 10, it's usually probably like about 100 bucks a month for most of their members on average. Just about almost every gym that I've seen that I've had experience with or even researched. And as far as their memberships, they're right around that price. Well, how can you stay afloat with that? That would work if the gym was all you probably had. You had no other expenses, but you're a fighter. You got to pay coaches. You got to do training camps. You got to travel. You got to do all this stuff, man. And 9 times out of 10, you might fight maybe once or twice a year. So you might get somewhere between $5-10 grand. If you have a good agent, then if you got an agent, then you're probably not worrying about money. But if you do have a good agent, you'll probably get a little bit more than that. But after you pay all your expenses, you're happy, man, if you're keeping the lights on. So my thing is think beyond being just a coach and running a gym or something like that, man. It's just like, really, you got this internet right here. Use it, man. Run with that. Use that popularity. You got their health. People even hate you. Use that. Be a Josh Koscheck. Use the hate, man, to put money in your pocket. One thing about it, people might boo you or whatever, but they love to hate you. And they'll try to go and find wherever you are just so they can hate. Okay.
Well, that's what works for Conor, right? 50% of the people tune in because they hate him, and 50% tune in because they love him.
Yep.
Half the people want to see him win. Everyone else wants to be there when he loses. But they're there. They're all there.
And he accepts that. Same thing can be said about Ronda, but just kind of like you have some people who say like they don't care about the haters or whatever, but you can tell it affects them. Then there's one who don't care about the haters, kind of like Conor, because he's like, yeah, I like the haters because it keeps me paid by you hating me. He understands the game. So. But at the end of the day, I think like with all this technology out there, these athletes can really think beyond just fighting, because this won't last forever. Same thing goes for any other athletes. I mean, if you're talking about the NFL, NBA, whatever, really start thinking beyond the sport.
Well, I mean, it's hard to think about all that when you're immersed fully in your professional career. And you're young, so you're just not thinking ahead like that, unfortunately. So it's good
to have good people in your corner, though.
Exactly. It behooves you to have people around you that can mentor you on that.
Or having a good spouse, like, you know what, baby, you go get your ass kicked, in training every day. I will handle this stuff. And then, hey, when you got a break, we'll discuss, this is what's going on. I'll keep your breast and blah, 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 or what's going on with that. So.
And I just wanted to build up on that, Sensei, because I thought, there's a thing that's happening, over here, especially in rugby. So the big sport around in Europe is football, as in, the original football, because it's a foot and a ball. We're not going to get into that. And rugby. And a big thing that actually I see, because I've been interacting with a bunch of professional rugby players, and you can see this across all the sports. On one side, there's something that happens when athletes retire, either because of an injury or because it comes at the end of their sort of natural progression in their career. There's a huge dip in the sort of mental health around, especially their identity, and they lose that. And there's a lot of depression that's not being talked about, that we brush underneath the rug around these men who are meant to be these kind of elite athletes, who then suddenly no longer find their identity in what they do, and like they go from being a superstar from one day to the next day being nobody. Right. They haven't figured out what they're meant to do. No one's come up with a plan for them. Say basically, look, mate, you've basically got at best 2 years in front of you. What have you set up in place to help you to sort of transition out of this and use your money wisely to invest in something that's going to help you, not just the gym, as you said. And the other thing is, a big thing that's being discussed at the moment is concussions and brain damage.
Yes.
And I think, it's Brendan Schaub that actually talks about this quite openly. Mm-hmm. He says we just do not have enough data today to look back and go like, okay, look at MMA. This is the damage and the impact that it's having on athletes, and this is what we need to sort of be talking about. And I think for me, this is actually one of the big areas that I focus on, and I give talks and stuff around, which is sort of the mental health, wellness. And I think this is something that I'd love to see a bit more we address and we talk about, what's going on for fighters when they step out of the ring, right. and their life after that. And so it's just something I want to bring up, because I think it's really important to sort of put the finger on it.
Yeah, well, let's use that to tie into what you do, Mark, because you do coaching and you've written. Let's talk about your book first. It's not you, it's me. What does that mean? you had a bad relationship experience here? Or,
That was the first thing that came to my mind. Like, this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, no, well, it's funny you say that, because actually the title came because what I realized is when people work in toxic jobs, and Mike, I know for a fact that you'll probably relate to this. When people work in jobs, they often find themselves in something that they just hate, or they just doesn't bring them any fulfillment, whatever you have. Right. And it's a very similar state, actually, than being in a relationship. And some people stay in relationships even though they know they should get the fuck out of it, but they just stay for whatever reason. And what's one of the most cliche things you say when you break up to someone? It's like, listen, baby, it's not you, it's me. I've just changed.
I'm like, nah, it's you. I know it's not me. It's you.
You just don't do it for me anymore. And I think that's really where the title came from. So it came from it was kind of a part of my journey and part some of the stuff I kept on telling my friends and clients around. Like, look, if you're just in a job that you hate, it's okay. Like there's some things that you can do, and it's time for you to break up with the job. And here's what I think you can do to sort of go about it. So that title really came down to sort of playing with the idea of the metaphor that I called it corporate adultery. When you start looking out for a different job and you feel like you're cheating on someone because you're basically doing the same things, like you're deleting your emails, like when you get a phone call, like you get up, it's my wife. You go outside and
you have a burner phone for it.
And like you come dressed nicely at the office, and he's like, "What the fuck are you going to do?" And it's like, "Oh, but just I lost a bet with a friend." And you're actually going to the job interview, like you take like days off to say you're going to the holidays, but you're actually going for job, so it's this whole kind of joke around. We've got to stop looking at our jobs as relationships because it's just business, and ultimately the only thing that's important is the relationship to yourself.
No doubt about it. So how did you quit? How did you were doing jobs that were not fulfilling. So how did you make the transition into what you're doing now?
Yeah. So, it's a long story, but the short version is that basically I came from a corporate background and I was setting overpriced advertising spaces in like the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, etc. And I was just hating it. And I was like in my early 20s. It was ridiculous. Like this company was paying me for to have a driver. I had a huge flat with like a telescopic staircase that was opening up to a rooftop in Cyprus. I had like a team. So I was supposed to be living the dream. Like my parents came and they come from like a humble background and they were like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." And I was like, "Actually, I hate it. I want to leave." And they're like, "What? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, look, you've got like a remote control for your staircase to come down from the roof." And it was just really, really crap. And so basically I just took the decision. I quit. I started up a business. I ended up working for another company where I was advising consultants and CEOs and so forth at a business school. And then I just thought, you know what, fuck this. Why am I doing this? Life's too short. And I did a video CV, and you can check it out. I think it's called like best video CV ever or something stupid like that on YouTube. And that's it. And keep in mind that this is back in 2011. This is when no one was really making video CVs. Everybody thought I was an idiot. Everybody's saying like, you're going to look like a douchebag and people are going to think like you're a bum. And it worked. I mean, I basically got, it's been viewed over 100,000 times now. And it was kind of
that's great.
Time. Yeah. And I ended up talking with Adam Garoni, who's the CEO and co-founder of the Movember Foundation, the world's largest men's health organization. Yeah. And so basically they gave me a job as country manager where I helped sort of launch and develop the foundation across European countries. So I did that for 4 years and I raised 2.8 million euros for men's health. And
that's great.
That's been like, it was an amazing journey of basically getting men to open up, to talk about their health, prostate cancer, testicular cancer, mental health issues, and physical inactivity. And from the back of that, I basically wrote a book, I launched a podcast, started a YouTube channel, and then been working with organizations and clients around that, just that kind of like stepping up and just having fun, like we just spend so much time sort of hating our lives, that we just got to take it a bit easy and open up. And I guess, courage, vulnerability, and leadership are the three things I talk a lot about. Yeah.
So what are you doing now?
Yeah, so I do a bit of consulting for the foundation still as I transition out and they hope they find someone new basically. And I'm focusing, this is probably the unproductive part, but I'm focusing a lot of time doing a lot of content. So I've been writing blogs, I've been putting podcasts out, and I've been giving out YouTubes. And actually what I want to be doing now is I want to deliver workshops for NGOs and charities, because I think there's a big gap in sort of the leadership training of middle management and executives in the charity sector, just because they don't have that many big budgets. And that's the kind of where I'm focusing at, and getting conversations out there about mental health.
Yeah. Mental health is one of those things that seems that people don't take it seriously at all in terms of not talking about it. Because my theory is that most people are depressed on some level or not, but no one wants to talk about it. It's like there's this old Sufi story about there was this village where everyone started drinking out of this well, and they all went mad, and there was one guy left, and he eventually caved because he goes, "Man, I'd rather just be mad like everyone else than be alone and be clear and know reality." And I think a lot of people are like that too. They go, well, no one else seems like they're depressed. They're all smiling, walking around happy. So I guess it's just me. So let me just put on a front like what everyone else is doing. But when you see the amount of people at bars every Friday, you see the amount of people drinking, doing a lot of unhealthy things. These are not behaviors that indicate real mental health at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, so spot on, and especially among men. So I work a lot with men. And I think there's something somewhere that we've just bought into the narrative that men, opening up about what's going on for you equals weakness, and this expression "man up." And I know we kind of joke about it, and but I think this thing about manning up has led a generation of men to believe that, if you look at the statistics, one man kills himself every minute around the world, and out of 4 suicides, 3/4 are men. And these are just numbers that it's just plain stupid. It's the biggest killer amongst men under 40. And it's,
people have a lot of misconceptions about depression too. Sometimes
totally.
People look at depression relating to circumstances. So if you live in a nice home, you have a nice car, you have a good family, they're like, oh, you can't pause. There's no reason for you to be depressed, yet you still are for some reason, and that's the problem, and that's what you need to address.
And even on that note, you don't know exactly what it's taken to put on that show. Of having that nice home, that nice car, that ideal quote unquote family. You don't know what's going on inside that house. And that's the thing about it. So it's really easy for people to talk about things they don't know, or what they try to do is make it seem like their problems are bigger than that person's. Like, well, I'm sitting here in a flat, sitting here where it's like, it's 10 of us here and, I'm barely making ends meet. So you have no idea. So how dare you talk about depression? If anyone should be depressed, I should be depressed. But the thing is, that person may be more hardwired to deal with their feelings and deal with stress because of where they came from. They may have come from an environment where they're used to like really having like next to nothing and making do with what they have and being resourceful with that and not trying to live beyond their means because they were never in a situation where they could live beyond their means. Sure. So they should be a little more empathetic to someone who actually, okay, let's just say someone does look like they have everything. But the thing is, you got to sit there and think about it. You're pretty much both are probably sharing the same type of stresses that are going on because you're the head of the household. You're trying to keep the family together and you don't want to see anybody in your family suffering, your kids, your wife or whatever else. And the wife's probably on your ass like, look, things are getting cut off. Or the other one, the rich guy is more like, she's like, look, I don't want to lose this lifestyle. What are you going to do about it? You wanted me to be a stay at home mom. You won't let me, you didn't want me to work. So you said you're going to take care of everything. You're not taking care of it. Take care of it. So you're both getting the same things, in different situations. So, and you both probably been taught, just deal with it, handle it, and don't whine about it. Don't cry about it. Just fucking do it. And that's where that whole thing, just be a man because you're the head of the household, man up and do that. But a lot of times man up becomes more like bottle up. And that's what happens. They start bottling up everything, and then one day they freaking explode, and it goes into this bad behavior. They either become an abusive husband, or emotionally or physically, or they go out and do abusive things to themselves, like going out, like Mike was saying, you're going out getting shit faced every weekend. You're at the strip club, you're experimenting right every week, look, financing some girl's college career, every Friday night at the strip club, and taking care of another family that you'll never see, her babies. So you become a sponsor, okay? So. You got all these other things.
You're polygamous and you don't even know it.
Exactly.
Yeah, 5 families you're supporting out there.
So we got Peaches. You got got her family. Cinnamon's family. You got all these flavors family that you don't even know about, man.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
No, sorry. There's a quote that I want to share that my girlfriend told me yesterday, which is, "Anger is the bodyguard of pain," and I think, I probably bottled that one. Is like anger is pain's bodyguard.
Right.
And it's interesting because when you see people behaving that way, like either through toxic or like because they're being physically abusive or they drink or they take drugs or they eat their emotions, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Often it's just it's something that's being not being addressed. And I think for me it's one of these kind of what I love to see more is opening up this conversation. And I'm not talking about like doing it like in a heavy kind of really therapist way. No. I'm just talking like I actually find that I get a bunch of mates. We might go for like a workout. So I train in kind of a bunch of, I guess, MMA, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, boxing, and that kind of stuff. And I just find that just getting guys who don't at all train in any kind of fight, but you get them out, get a few pads, get some boxing gloves on them, get a sweat, and then for some reason, guys just open up a bit more. You've just had a good workout, you just sit around, you're having like a shake or whatever, and you just start talking, and it's incredible to see just once people start realizing that, wait a minute, you also have these doubts, exactly. Like you also have these body shame issues, like you also think, and then you get that conversation going and it's suddenly like, wow, like a problem shared is like a problem halved, it's I would just love that anybody listening just to know that call your mate, like going out, may it be for a beer if that's what you do, but go out, have a walk, go for a workout, whatever, and just check in with your mate. Just see like, hey, how you doing? Like how you really doing? Not the kind of I'm good, man, and then go back home and cry. And
most of us do canned responses there. How you doing? Great. How you doing? Great. It's like, okay, good. Now we can keep going on our way.
Yeah. In Sierra Leone, they actually
someone starts talking. It was like, whoa. I didn't sign up for all of that when I asked how you were doing.
Yeah. In Sierra Leone, they actually say, hi, how are you? They say, how's your body, which means how is your body? And then if you can say body fine, which basically if you feel good in your body, then you say body fine. So it's like this question of like, instead of saying how are you doing, how's your body?
Yeah, see, I go walking up to
here, hold on. I don't know about over in the UK, but you know in America, if I walk up to a dude and somewhere in Houston, I'll say, how's your body? I can guarantee you mine will probably end up on the ground. From getting
hey man, have you examined your balls recently?
So all you gotta do is just rub them a little bit, man, and check for love.
It's like, no, and you're not going to examine them either.
Why are you worried about my balls, man? What's wrong with you?
You guys are laughing, but when I joined the Movember Foundation, it's basically the foundation that gets men to grow a mustache for 30 days during November to raise men's health issues.
Right.
Yeah, so if you told me like 5-6 years ago that I'd spend the rest of my time basically talking about facial hair and balls all day long, I probably would have believed you. But it's just
right there with you, man. Because the first time I heard about that, probably about a year or so, probably about a year or so before my father passed from prostate cancer. So first thing I saw, I was like, I'll never cut my mustache or any facial hair and walk around looking like a Simpsons character, But then my father passed away from prostate cancer, man. In that same year, I ended up doing it, man. And yes, I still look like a Simpsons character, but it was for a good cause, That was the thing about it. And actually, from all my faults, they did it. Like, oh man, I thought about that before, but I saw that you did it. Now I'm going to do it, man. And next thing you know, you have these stories where they've lost their father to prostate cancer or an uncle or someone like that. Yeah. So it became what you just talked about. From this one little thing, just me posting a picture of doing it, started this conversation. And then there was this little moment of vulnerability to all these guys, these tough dudes that normally in the fitness field, lifting all this weight or whatever, all got this one common fear is fucking cancer. I don't care who you are, man. You can be Superman here. And trust me, if Jor-El or his dad had cancer, Superman would have been a weak little punk too. As far as people would have understood, him, because he thinks Superman always invincible. But I'm sure, he would have had a moment of vulnerability had his father or whatever else had cancer, something like that, because that's that one universal thing amongst all of us, man. I don't care who you are, where it breaks you down, and it really makes you think about your mortality, no matter what, because it comes in so many different forms. A lot of times heart disease is heart disease. It is heart disease. It's going for the heart, but with cancer, it's like it got all these different ways that it can come at you. Prostate, cervical, thyroid, and all these different ways, man. So it's just it's coming at you from it's almost like you're getting jumped by a gang. You're one dude in the alley and cancer's got like 15 or 20 people.
Nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. And you're like, what are you going to do? How do you defend yourself against 20 people coming at you at once? And that's what cancer feels like to a lot of people, man. So,
and I'll tell you what, and I just wanted to sort of, the fascinating thing that I've seen, and so I guess I've spoken to a lot of doctors, patients, cancer survivors, families of cancer survivors, and people who've lost people with cancer. And one of the most fascinating things I found is that actually when people are told that they have one type of cancer or another, one thing that makes a significant difference is the sort of outlook that they have on their possibilities of survival and getting better. Like doctors say they don't really know why, they can't really explain it, but there's a massive impact of an individual actually going, okay, I'm going to get through this, I'm going to fight this, versus the guy who's like, well, I'm done, I'm dead. And usually what they see is that the fight or the progression of the disease definitely slows down for an individual that's like positive, healthy outlook, like, okay, I'm going to keep like a healthy mindset out of this. And the guy who basically gives up, it significally goes faster. So it's just, I don't know.
I think
that makes perfect sense.
And cancer strives on inflammation, and that it needs that negative atmosphere. It needs that inflammation. It needs to feed off of that. So when you're stressed out and you're already thinking like, okay, I'm giving up, and you start in your mind, trying to prepare yourself to let go and shut down, then the body's going to be like, well, that's how you feel, and that's how you think, and then we're going to go with that, and next thing you know, cancer's like, hell yeah, feed me more, give me that. And it just makes it a lot easier. But when you're saying
everything starts with your brain, right? When you give up, it's your brain telling you to give up first.
Yeah.
It's not like your body gave up and then your brain goes, okay, let's stop.
Exactly.
Your brain said, let's give up.
I want to share one last story, and I know that this may not be relevant, but I know that we all share a common interest in I guess nutrition. And one of my mum's best friend, Pauline, when she was told she had terminal cancer, they told her basically we're giving you between 4 to 6 months, if at best. And she basically started looking into all these, alternative therapies and neurotherapy and all this kind of stuff. And she basically came across articles around plant-based diet and vegan diet and so forth. So she basically, from one day to the next, ditched meat and adopted a plant-based diet. She went on to live 6 years. And I'm not saying it's just down to the nutrition, but she always used to say before she passed, she always used to say that changing her diet and her lifestyle and her approach significantly gave her a better quality of life for the rest of life that she had.
Well, just the fact that she even looked into it, and that's a proactive step, right? Exactly. She goes, okay, I'm going to research this. I'm going to take charge of it. And then no doubt the diet helped, but just the positive, proactive steps definitely helped too.
Active self-defense going on right there. It gives you more opportunity and it increases your chances of survival compared to just like giving up and just letting it have, being at the mercy of the cancer. Like, well, cancer, you win. Okay. So,
well, it's like any problem in life, right? You have a problem, you can sit around and dwell on it all day long, or you start going, okay, let's put together an action plan and start solving this. Just the act of putting together a plan to resolve it is empowering in and of itself.
And look what that does probably just to you internally when you just sit there and as far as your energy levels as well. When you're sitting there, you're putting a plan in place, you're so busy, man, and all those, I'm sure dopamine, everything's all fired up at that point when you're like that, man. And your brain is charged up. So it's really making it very hard for cancer to thrive when that's going on. It's just like, there's so many like positive electrons, and everything is working like that. It's just like, well, damn, okay, we should have rethought this person right here. This is not going to be easy to take them out.
Before I get like hate tweets, I'm not saying that positive thinking is going to cure cancer in any kind of way.
Yeah, of course not.
What I am saying is I just think that we can all do maybe a bit of a better job at sort of opening up and just being real and having some conversation with your mates.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's why it's very good to choose your people wisely, because a lot of times you have those people like, nah, man, I don't know about all that, man. To my change, you know what? You just need to go and do your chemo, man. You need to get your affairs in order. It's like, yes, okay, get your affairs in order, but at the same time, don't just stop there. Like, statistics show, man, you can't make it from this. So, I mean, I'm gonna pray for you, dude. I'm gonna pray for you.
I think the hard decision for people to make in that case is, if it's really terminal, do you want to waste time researching anything rather than just going out there and doing whatever you want to do with the time you have left?
And money as well. And money. Yeah. Then you're thinking like, okay, if it's terminal, I got to make sure there's going to be some money. This is already costing us a lot of money anyway, just treatment up until this point and operations or whatnot. So I want to make sure that my family's not going to be in debt and broke, and so doing all this research and traveling and meeting these doctors and, doing all these other different, therapies or whatever else is going to cost even more money on top of the treatment I'm currently doing. So do I want to put my family in that much more debt for me just trying to buy another year, or another 6 months? So that becomes an issue as well, man.
Yeah. I mean, that's why Breaking Bad started, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are really tough scenarios to deal with. There's really no right answer.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just it's this thing that you get to sort of see over and over again. And actually, I've talked about this with you, Mike, before, but I'm kind of in the middle of writing a book called Real Men Eat Plants, and it's kind of a bit of a satire between the link between masculinity and the size of the vegetable on a plate. And one of the things I'm kind of, that you kind of talk about when we sort of go through this is actually just the kind of, the positive outlook.
You're like, hey man, why are you eating so many cucumbers?
No, hey, man.
Compensating for something?
2 eggplants? Wow.
Mike, really?
I noticed you put 10 of those big carrots in the juicer every morning. What's going on there?
There should be like a diet fad of like, you only like phallic that would be a really interesting diet that might go well down.
It's like, man, I see you eating a lot of tomatoes. What's that all about? You always chop them in half and eat them.
Well, I'm over eating this big bag of peaches. So, with a cherry shake. Okay. So.
Sincere always makes sure to cut them in half too.
Some of them are a little too big, man.
That sounds cool. You're working on that now, or is that something that's almost done?
Yeah, no. So yeah, it's. I guess I'm about 60% there.
That's cool.
Yeah. No, so I've done since then. I've actually done the Cornell University plant-based nutrition course.
Oh, cool.
Which is it's just blown my mind.
That's the China Study Guys course, right?
Yeah. That's it, Campbell. Yeah. So it's just really blown my mind in terms of. And I'm doing another side project, and I think we talked about this on the podcast, which is I want to do a documentary which I'll be crowdfunding called "Can Vegans Save the World?" It's basically, it started off because so when I went on plant-based diet, a lot of my friends were making fun of me, and I kind of I did come across a certain type of stereotype of people who were like on a vegan diet, and when I started looking at like Cowspiracy and all these kind of different documentaries, and God, I so many of these documentaries, one thing that came super clear to me that is like, it doesn't matter what your culinary inclination is or what your dietary kind of orientation is. There's something happening, and we're all fucked if we don't pay attention to it. You know, it's like you just look at just pure numbers right now. I've just dropped these very quickly, and you can check all these on the Cowspiracy website. This is where I got them from. So there's 7.4 billion people living on this planet today, right? And just to give you in perspective, 1959 there were 3 billion people. So we've doubled in less than 60 years.
Yeah,
and then there's
crazy.
a projection. Yeah, projection is 2040 there'll be 9 billion people, and by 2050 there's 11 billion people predicted to be on this. Now, look at then the livestock, right? So cows, pigs, chickens, etc. They take 45% of land mass in the world. 45%. So I don't care what you think. Look at the numbers. If there's 7.4 billion people and there's 45% of the land mass is taken by livestock, calculate, do the duplications, and there is no way we can sustain that amount of food for the population that's about to come. So you've got to find an alternative. So this documentary is all about that, basically, sort of looking into, are vegans going to be the future of humanity, and they're actually going to be the ones saving us. So instead of making fun of them, we should maybe listen to them.
I mean, on the side that you got like 2048 where they're saying that, you know, pretty much there's not going to be any fish left in the ocean by 2048. That's right around the corner, man. So here's the thing. If all the animals are taking up all the land mass, some of us better learn how to start swimming, because since there won't be any fish in the ocean, our ass is going to have to start living in the damn water. You know?
I mean, the ocean is an ecosystem where it's important to have actual living beings in there.
Yeah.
So if all the fish are wiped out, that's a huge problem that has catastrophic consequences.
All these different things between, you know, all the fish gone, the bees gone. It's like fucked and more fucked, you know. But the thing is, I think a lot of times we just get in that trap of thinking, and hell, even if you just cut back on one meat-based meal or whatever, that makes a big difference right there. I think where we get in that trap is that we're this highest form of intelligence who comes up with all this technology, and we think that we're going to come up with something that's going to save us, and we don't have to worry about any of that stuff now. Because by the end, there's going to be something that's going to protect us. And you know what? Don't worry about it, because they're working on stuff right now. Okay? That's a big if. That's a big gamble. You know, it's a very big gamble, especially while you've got these numbers of things that are happening right now, and they're not estimates. It's like, well, currently right now, this is what's going on. So you need to be paying more attention to those numbers than the what ifs that could happen 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the line.
Well, we keep getting stupid advice too, such as, take shorter showers.
Which is so hilarious. I'm like,
it's like, like that's going to make it. That's good. That's what's going to make the big difference.
There's more water used on that steak that you're eating right now than you know.
The amount of water is the size of a battleship carrier, something ridiculous like that per cow. You know, over the life, the amount of water it has to be used to get that cow to a meat on a plate. So it's ridiculous, man. It's just like the things that. I mean, there's so many big organizations, lobbyists and so forth, that influence people's behavior. So that's why water control companies will give bad advice like this. I mean, they showed that in that Cowspiracy movie as well. Yeah. He kept on bringing up, well, what about animal agriculture? We can't really talk about that.
I know.
Turn the camera off.
It's totally nuts. And there's something that you just said, which I think is really interesting, is there's actually my girlfriend studies psychology, and there's actually a thing, you know, in a group environment when there's someone gets attacked or someone starts screaming, there's an actual cause and effect of when people look around and think that someone else is going to do it, and they just paralyze, you know. And I think what you just said, since it really is actually the same thing. It's like we're all there going like, well, it's getting fucked around here, but someone's going to step up and do something about it.
Someone's smart out there working on it.
Yeah,
someone will figure it out, because there's somebody out there smarter than I am that can figure it out. And it comes down, what can I do?
People will delude themselves to the furthest end to avoid any change.
Or they doubt themselves, because they'll sit there and say, what can I do? Well, I hear you guys, what you're saying, but what can I do? I mean, I'm just this dude over here working, you know, I'm working 8 to 5 every day, and, you know, I don't have any money. You know, I didn't get a college education or whatever else. I don't have these big brains like all these guys who are running all this stuff and doing these.
You could kill yourself, dude. That would help.
Population control, Mike? I think a lot of the stuff that people are eating right now is already doing a great job of that. So
they're already killing themselves.
Yeah, so it's just a long, prolonged suicide attempt.
People are committing suicide, not even realizing it. When you look at people, I look at people's shopping carts, and most of the time, there's not one thing in there that I would eat. Because there's not a thing in there that I consider food.
I was about to say I was about to say the exact same thing. Like that's not
just
food,
crap.
Man.
It's like that's oral entertainment, and not the fun kind, right?
I know much better ways of getting oral entertainment.
And there's actually a book I recommend that you guys can read if the listeners wants to read this. It's called The Pleasure Trap. I don't know if you guys have heard about it already.
I've heard about that. Yeah.
By Douglas Lyle. That you can actually check out. I think he did a TEDx Fremont talk or something. You can just type in The Pleasure Trap TEDx or something. You'll find it. But what's amazing is actually you find out that just we're basically built to avoid change at all cost.
Right.
And the only thing we want to do is just survival and conservation of energy. I mean, that's pretty much it, right? So it's like, as soon as you start telling people, and look, I'll use my dad as an example. You'll probably fucking hate me for telling me this, but my dad's had a couple of strokes in less than 3 years, diabetic, high cholesterol, doesn't do any exercise, hasn't got the healthiest of diets, and it's insane. It's like it doesn't matter the information that I provide him or the conversation we have. It's just really difficult. You know, he finds it very difficult to change his habits and so forth. And I think that's something that needs to also be looked at, which is, I don't know about you guys, but when I saw The Unconvenient Truth, I walked out of there going, well, we're all fucked. But then I thought, what can I do? Like, what can I do? Like, you know, great. Thanks for telling me that we're all screwed. But what can we do about it? Right. And I think that's what we need to do a bit more about. Like, we can bring awareness around what the problem is. And I think through this documentary I'm trying to make it a bit more humorous, a bit more fun, and actually to people to say, okay, wow, so if I actually decide to eat only vegetables today, then maybe that can help a bit. It doesn't mean to like give it all up, but I think that would make a huge difference already. Yeah, two things with that. You know, even in that something like, you know, wanting to just commit to like, oh, I just want to eat vegetables today. And there's always first thing you have to do is turn off your TV when you make that decision, because that TV, that commercial is going to come on and tell you that, you know, you need to eat meat, or you need to go get this value meal and feed your family. Tyson's feeding you like family, you know, so they're using all these key words and things like that. And they're hitting you emotionally. Then you're thinking you're being selfish because all you want to do is eat vegetables that day. But Tyson's feeding you like family. So why wouldn't you want to feed your family with Tyson instead of sitting there thinking about yourself and your damn vegetables? You know, so you start having these conflicts right there. And then you start every commercial is playing upon your insecurities over and over and over. How you eat, how much money you make, why you're not driving this, why does your girl look like that, why does your man look like this, and you're just constantly. So first thing you gotta do is turn off your damn TV until you're mentally equipped to realize that, okay, when you see a commercial like this is bullshit. Get Roku, get Hulu, upgrade to the $12.99 a month plan with no commercials. Exactly. I haven't seen a commercial, besides YouTube, but actually watching TV. It's amazing what a difference that makes. Oh yeah, in terms of just also enjoyment, because you're like, I hate watching a show and there's commercials every 5 minutes. So. Yeah, like I said, I think that is like one of the biggest things right there. You got to turn that TV off, man, and let that be your first move. And I forgot what my second point was, because those commercials. Well, you already lost a lot of people just on that advice. Like, the average person watches 4 hours a day, and that's the average. So, I mean, there's people out there who watch 8 or more. So you right at the whole turn the TV off. They're like, well, shit, what am I supposed to do then? You know? If they're watching 4 hours of TV, like what's sad is that's going to be about 80 minutes of commercials. Yeah. So just think about that. Right. Yeah. I remember reading the statistics around the amount of advertising messages we get in a single day just by walking around is insane. It's like, you know, from like the bus stops from the big sort of signals you see over buildings. Especially in big cities like London. Yeah, like London, Las Vegas is like that too. Just walking up and down the strip. On trains, you're in the tube, as you guys say over there. You know, it's all there on the walls. Yeah. And then hell, even if you got like this hot girl walking in front of you, hell, you see every name brand on each ass cheek right there going side by side, like, oh, True Religion, okay. And so some other chicks, as you stand at that girl's, but like, well, I guess I need to get some True Religion jeans so you can look at mine. You know, that's clever marketing right there, right? Whoever came up with, let's put our logo on the ass cheeks, you know? Because we know everyone's looking there anyway, so that's our Trojan horse to get people to look at stuff they would never look at otherwise. Let's just make these fitted T-shirts for women, because and then put our brand right across where the breast would be, because guys are staring there anyway. So and then system.
So then probably some other chick is looking too. So she's thinking about that. And there's like, so it's all these things are strategically placed over them. So next thing you know, instead of turning off TV, just, just poke your eyes out. Okay. That's the only way you're going to be healthy because everybody's buying your vision.
You still hear stuff.
Stevie Wonder's got it made, man. I'm just trying to tell you.
I mean, someone's got to make like a spoof advert of like bananas or something, like do like kale, like a kale advert. Cause I still haven't, I mean, I don't know, maybe in the US you guys have it. But I haven't ever seen over here in the UK like vegetable adverts,
Well, yeah, it's like I always tell people
how much money there is.
Yeah, I would say like you always know what foods to eat because those are the ones you're not going to see on a TV commercial.
Right.
Yeah, but you know what? It's funny. There are some banana commercials, but they're always going to be like from Chiquita or somebody like that, where it's very, very heavily GMO bananas.
Oh, right.
Rarely going to see an organic banana commercial. Right. You're never going to see that. No one's really going to push organic fruits and vegetables or whatever else. Or if they do, it's going to be on a more higher end channel where it has a more higher end, audience. You're not going to really see that on basic cable. You're not going to see that on the local channels as much because, the income is a little different to that audience. So what they're doing, they're going to play to their audience. So if you're watching CNBC, you're going to see more higher end commercials on CNBC because they're really about money and capitalism on that channel. So they're going to focus on people who can afford, in their mind, who can afford these things. Everyone else, they're going to dumb it down. So you go to UPN, well, I don't even know if that's still around, but WB, they're going to end up showing McDonald's. You go to BET, it's freaking Kentucky Fried Chicken commercials, which is insulting and racist at the same time. It's like, really? Why are there so many Kentucky Fried Chicken commercials?
We know you guys go to KFC. Let's throw that commercial in there. We'll put on Popeyes next.
And what's so funny about it, even the actors they pick for those commercials are specific to that channel. I can watch a Popeyes commercial on ABC. And the black people in that Popeyes commercial, put them on BET, everybody. Well, look, I guess the one benefit I've seen on BET and seeing that they're all black on Popeyes, the lady that owns the Popeyes is black. So I guess that goes to show like, hey, we can be entrepreneurs and be business owners, obviously. So at least she owns her business. There's the one positive out of it, but then it's Popeyes. You couldn't go and get something better. Like, I don't know, man, a much better restaurant than that. I don't know, man. So yeah, it's amazing what advertising does to your mental without you realizing it and how they influence what you think and how you see things and how you view yourself and your own health, man.
Yeah, there's an article I read recently from, I don't really know how to pronounce his surname. I think it's Joe Manganiello, something like that, the actor.
The guy.
So basically.
True Blood, yeah.
True Blood, that's it, that actor. So basically he was talking about how he got some blood tests done from this guy that used to work for the NASA or something. And it turns out he had a humongous amount of arsenic level in his blood because of all the chicken he ate over the years that wasn't organic and because of the amount of arsenic that was found in chickens. And I just thought, like, that is insane.
That's crazy.
That is insane. Yeah, so basically I don't know what he did. I think
probably a heavy metal detox or something like that.
Yeah.
Chelation therapy, something along those lines.
Yeah. And I just thought that was mad. It's like, and I thought it was,
well, people are hearing this and going, wow, that's crazy. They're probably in the same situation and never even measured that.
Meanwhile, they're watching forensic files and there's this guy like, well, it seems that the spouse was, killed from arsenic poisoning. And now there's going to be a lot of people whose spouses are in jail who might feel like, okay, I need a retrial. It may have been all that chicken that he was eating. And it may not be me.
Eating chicken.
He was eating chicken. I didn't poison him. Come on, man.
Well, I mean, it's always amazing to me how people can't put two and two together. You look at the state that the animals are in factory farms, and then you're eating that every day for 10, 20, 30 years. You really don't think there's going to be any negative consequences of that?
That was my second point I was going to bring up that Mark was bringing up when he's talking about his father. He's saying, no matter what, how much advice you give him and all the things you share with him, that he won't change his eating habits. Well, another thing is there are so many chemicals in these foods that you become chemically dependent. And it's like telling a crackhead who's been, or a cokehead who's been doing coke for 40 years. He's been doing it since Kennedy was in office, since, during the hippie revolution here. And here we are. And he's still doing a little bit here, a little bit there and telling them that, hey, you need to get off that. Dude, it's so much a part of them now. Or even like people have been smoking for 50, 60 years and you try to tell them stop smoking now, they may just die immediately because the body is so freaking resilient. It is now acclimated to all that cigarette smoke and found a way for you to survive during all this time. But then if you sit there and go cold turkey and stop, then it doesn't know what to do now. It's like, well, we've been working so hard for 50 or 60 years. So when you start removing that chemical dependence of these artificial foods from people, man, it's very hard. And it's sending so many artificial messages to the brain. So it makes it very hard. And like, so I can get it because, you know, I live with someone who's been dealing with this all her life. And I've seen it firsthand. And it made me more empathetic to it. Like being in the fitness industry, we can be such snobs, you know, because we made a decision, you know, to take charge of our life and whatever else and think like, you know, all you got to do is make a decision. Yes. At the ground level, that's what it comes down to for everyone. But at the same time, everybody's at different levels of how they're dealing with stuff. And you don't know exactly how long have they been dealing with it and what got them there. Just like even with people with crappy relationships, I always wonder what made you such an asshole in the first place? You know, to be such an asshole to your wife or your girlfriend or your husband or your boyfriend. Then I always wonder, what was the source like? What was your family life like? What examples did you grow up around that told you that this is okay? Were you around a father that told your mother she was worthless and she wasn't about anything and go fix me a sandwich, that's all you're good for and blah, blah, and your mother accepted that and she didn't do anything about it. So in your mind, you're thinking like, well, this must be okay because mommy, your parents can't be wrong when you're a child. They can never be wrong. So if they said this was okay, then it must be okay. Even when you get old enough to realize that wasn't okay, it's still drilled in you subconsciously so deep. And you do certain things and have certain actions. You wonder like, why did I say that to her? Why did I act that way or whatever? And then you start thinking about, oh, because my dad said it to my mom. And I actually forgot about that because it became so commonplace. Yeah. That's where I learned that from. So you got to kind of
so much learned behavior that we just recycle without even realizing it.
Exactly.
100%.
You know, so it's always a trip when someone says, I'm my own man. You're really not. You've been programmed. You've been well designed. It's like weird science. The person you are today is through the craftiness and all the people putting in their input to build you to who you are. Now, you need to be Frankenstein now, cut the cord and then let loose and be your own monster. But up until this point, you were created. This was programmed. You know, you just need to understand that. Even when you feel like you're taking charge, there's somebody that programmed you to be someone to take charge. You know, no one's ever their own person, man.
Right.
So even go ahead.
Yeah, and you know, and I love what you're saying because I mean, I thought I read an article somewhere about basically by the age of 5, you've already built your personality, and then the rest of that is just you sponging from around you. And you know, you don't know better. You know, I think it's great what you said in terms of what my biggest realization in my 30s is that basically my parents did their best, but they don't necessarily know best.
Exactly. They did the best of what they had. And that's the realization I came to. Yeah. Like, they had to work with what they had. Exactly. And I'm grateful for that because, hey, one thing about it, I'm not a screw up. You know, I'm not in jail, in prison, all these other things that are supposed to happen to me by the time I was 21. None of that stuff even made sense to me when I used to hear those statistics like, you're going to be dead by 21. I'm like, okay, what's going to happen? So I can go ahead and prepare myself to make sure that doesn't happen. You know, and when I started, and then I realized what they were basing those statistics on. I said, well, I'm not out here in the streets. I'm not out here doing this. I'm not selling drugs. I come from a pretty much middle class family and my ass needs to be home by the time the street lights come on. So I'm not out at night doing who knows what, you know, and the people I hang around are not into those activities. What I was like, so my chances of all that stuff are going less and less and less and less and less. So I'm not the one being paranoid of turning 21 at that time. I'm actually looking forward to it. And somebody not even just saying, oh, I'm going to drink at 21. I already had a drink before then. So I wasn't even waiting for that either. So, you know, my thing is, again, it came down to how I was raised and things that I learned or whatever else. So all those statistics didn't mean a thing to me. Now, it just sucks for some people around me where that did happen to them, you know, and I'm very fortunate again because my parents, from what they understood all this stuff, they dealt with all these different things growing up. They had the right equipment to help equip me. I didn't necessarily have to live their life and do what they did, but they shared their experiences with me, and it was up to me to do something, you know, with that information. You know, I would do that with my kids. Like, look, I'm just saying this, and this from what I've known, blah, blah, blah. Now, you can do what you like with this information. I'm just sharing it with you. And then you're done. Why? Because 2 out of 3 of my kids are adults. And my third one might as well be an adult. So that's how you have to treat your children and not baby them because you're not equipping them to take charge of their life by babying them. Because then when things go awry, they're looking at you like, okay, things are not working out. What do I do, Mom? What do I do, Dad? And then now you're trying to decide like when they need something in that situation that, oh, you're an adult, figure it out. You didn't equip them to be an adult. So I think that's the first thing right there. Let them make their own decisions, man. You know, just kind of guide them, try to keep them from effing up when they're kids. But at the same time, let them be able to use reasoning and start thinking things out instead of just always giving them the answer. Ask them more questions. What should I do? I don't know. What do you think you should do? and let them use reasoning, you know?
There's one of my parents' friends called David Askew once gave me, I remember asking him, like, you know, what do you think is a secret to parenthood? And he said, well, you know, he kind of thought about it. He said, well, you know, give them love, a sense of humor, and confidence, and the rest they'll take care of it. And it kind of really resonated with me. You know, it kind of stuck with me over the years. And you know, I'm not a dad yet. I hope to be sometime soon. And yet I think it's so interesting how, and I see it with my family, just how much of an influence that your parents have on you.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta understand, you spend most of your days, those first few years, they're the only people you're hanging around. You know, if you're fortunate enough to have your family around, you know, and then after that, you got this split influence going between 8 to 9 hours a day being with a teacher at school. And then the rest of that day is with your parents. So you got that. So now you got this mix. So you got to kind of hope that, you know, as a parent that, you know, the values that these teachers or whatever have are basically these teachers just need to teach and just pretty much, you know, keep your child as disciplined as possible, you know, without trying to put your stuff on this kid as a teacher. Because it may not be in line with what's going on at that kid's house. You know, but I think what's going on now, even up into, you know, university level, you even have these professors trying to really put their views upon the students, especially then because they're fresh, they're out of the house now. And in that child's mind, he's thinking like, okay, now I'm 18, I'm a man, I can think for myself now because I'm on my own. And that mind is still very vulnerable and very impressionable. And so I think a lot of these professors understand that. And they really started spouting out their own ideals upon them instead of actually just asking the student, like, what do you think? And why is that? Instead of just like, this is what's right. This is what's wrong. Oh, forget what your parents said or what they taught you. You know, dude, that's not your place. You're there to teach the lesson.
It's also the easiest thing to do, right? I mean, it's so much easier to give the answer than to wait for the question to be answered.
Exactly. Because, you know, they may give you an answer that you don't necessarily agree with. So what? That's what's called being an individual. We're not trying to have a society where everybody thinks the same and does the same thing. You know, we're not all trying to just be robots here, even though that's what's happening in a lot of situations, which is scary. When people just do things, again, that whole, what is the crowd doing? Oh, okay, well, I'm going to go with these guys because it's safer over here. I don't want to think. I don't want to be.
Well, they even did a study with 6 guys, and if 5 guys ordered the same drink, the 6th person's going to order what the other 5 did, whether that person wanted it or not.
Exactly.
Like, well, and that blowed my mind because I don't even pay attention to what anyone else.
No, I don't either.
I know what I'm going to get.
I know what I want.
If someone else gets whatever they're getting, I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'll get that too.
I have a short day. I'm like, nah, dude, give me a double malt scotch. Here we go. We're not drinking that. I'll probably even hear you order wine in the first place. No,
I'm thinking about what I'm.
I look at it, oh, you got some wine, okay.
But it's true though. I mean, it's just the group effect, you know, the peer pressure effect of just people who lose, you know, and a lot of the stuff that we're sort of talking about seems to be going around the same thing, which is basically, you know, owning kind of who you are, what you want to do, and just being okay with that, you know. And I think if you're not super clear about that, it's so much easier to just take on other people's stuff.
Well, it makes it hard to be part of any organization. This is why I've never lasted in any organization, whether it's a job or an organization in the fitness world that I was a part of, because at some points they want you to fall in line and do this and carry this line. And right there, you've lost me. I'm like, no. I'm not interested.
People don't want you asking questions like, well, you know, I don't necessarily feel that way. And well, you know, no, but that's how we've always done it, Sincere. Okay, but guess what? You know, for over 400 years, slavery was the common thing too. So let's just bring that back because that's how things were always done. Okay.
And that was the justification to just keep it going.
Exactly. Well, it's always been this way.
That's the way it is. That's your lot in life. You just have to accept it. Kind of
people are being beheaded overseas. Well, it's always been that way for that. Yeah, it doesn't mean it's right. It's like, so.
Yeah,
but then they'll flip it like, well, I don't behead people. I'm just saying that's just the way it's been. He's like, well, that's your excuse. You know, come on, man. It makes you a bigger part of the problem because you're almost like saying, okay, it's okay. I support that. You know, so that's that one thing that nobody wants to be the guy that sticks out because, you know, that takes a lot of chutzpah, as they would say. It takes big balls to say like, nah, not me. I won't do that. That's not right. Well, come on, man. Nope. No. And then, because you know what? Now those people have to make a decision. Well, it isn't right. So why am I doing this? They have to start looking at themselves and it makes them very uncomfortable. So they start, a lot of times they'll backtrack on you like, oh, you just think you're better than we are. You think you're bigger than us. You think you're smarter than us. You know, think you're stronger than us or whatever. Or,
and you're like, yes, as a matter of fact, I do.
Look, if that's look, man, who am I to deny how you feel? If that's how you feel, I will support your decision, man. So if you think I'm better than you, then damn it, so be it.
But don't you think there's like this? Don't you think it's like we're so quick as like a society to sort of point fingers and kind of make fun of people who try and do something different? I mean, I don't know about how you guys were with like the friends around you, the people that knew you when you started going off on your journeys and started doing your own businesses. But suddenly when you start sticking out, you become a target for a lot of people who kind of have a lot of shit going on with them that they just haven't sorted out, and they just take it out on you.
I mean, the flip side, fortunately, is you also become an inspiration for a lot of people.
Right. Yeah.
And that was more of my experience rather than ridicule. It was like a lot of people I knew were like, man, that's cool. You're going to do that. You're making that happen. And then they would follow up 5 years later, see what's going on, be like, whoa, that's crazy. Yeah. So I didn't really have the experience of people around me going, oh, that's never going to work. Because I don't hang out with those kind of people. What the fuck do I want to hang out with people that are going to tell me what I can or can't do? I mean, that doesn't sound like a good friend. You know?
Shit idea.
I mean, if someone has a bad idea and they're like, at least I think they have a bad idea, I'm not going to shoot it down like, come on, man, that's stupid. But I'm going to give them some constructive criticism.
Exactly.
And that's what a friend does, though, right? Like, if you hear if someone has a dream and in your mind you're like, man, that is a poorly put together plan, but I don't want to ruin their dream. That's not being a good friend either, saying nothing. You know,
that's when you ask those right questions, like, well, man, you know, how do you see this actually panning out into this level, you know, in the next couple of years, or with the current plan that you have? And let them start talking it out. Most people, so many people waste so much money with therapy because most time when you go to therapy, the therapist is not even offering anything. They're just asking questions. They let you talk it out and you find answers on your own. So you're pretty much paying just to talk out loud. Guess what, man? I can talk to myself at home. Okay. And usually if I'm really listening to myself, I can find the answer in that instead of just babbling to myself. So when you ask them the right questions and then your buddy's going on, well, man, I'm gonna start off doing this and blah, blah. And then, well, hell, how the hell am I gonna do that? And you're just kind of looking at them, shaking your head like, exactly. And then they're like, yeah, you know what?
I mean, sometimes you hear people's plans and you don't have to say anything because you know they're going to realize real fast. Like, oh yeah, go ahead, go try that. 2 steps in, they realize, you know what, this is not going to work out because of this, that, so forth. You know?
Yeah, and I just want to. I thought that was a really interesting point about counseling, and I think the thing that I was most surprised about when I started doing this kind of coaching journey was actually people very rarely have a space where they can share something with someone else and not be judged,
right,
and not be told what to do. You know, actually, and I think you'd be surprised what happens when actually you're just there to say, yeah, I believe you, or I hear you, or tell me more, you know, and you create that space, and it's just amazing because I get it. You know, it's like I could perfectly sort of speak to myself about that, but then suddenly when you create that environment where someone comes over and knows that they have a dedicated, whatever it is, an hour, 2 hour, whatever your format is, where they can speak about themselves and just vent out and open up and not be judged, man, it's amazing. I mean, you literally see people transform, and you don't have to do much, just sort of be there, listen, ask a few questions, and I think there's value in transformation in that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the benefits of a good therapist is they're not going to be biased. They're going to give you some objective feedback. They're going to give you an open space, as you said, Mark, to just vent a lot of that stuff out. And for a lot of people, that's really cathartic. Some people don't have that because they'll start talking, and then whoever's listening just wants you to stop. So they're gonna give you a solution to shut you up. It's like you know what? Here's how you solve that problem. You go do this, now get the fuck out of here. You know?
Now, but the flip side of that is once people have that space, they get addicted to that. And they can't stop going. So they'll never take action because, you know what, I'm just going to see my therapist. I'm just going to see my therapist. And then the next thing you know, they start bragging about it. They'll talk to a friend like, oh, girl, I love my therapist. You know, my therapist. You know, it becomes this thing like, why are you excited about that? It's like, oh, that's why I go see my therapist. And you've been going to it for 15 years now. And you really changed nothing in your life. Okay.
No, it's like people who go to Tony Robbins seminars over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I'm not picking on Tony necessarily. I'm just meaning like any seminar. It could be one of our seminars when we taught. You just keep taking the same course over and over again because you just like being there.
You haven't learned anything from the other 5 times you've shown.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at some point you have to execute this stuff, not just keep coming back and getting the same message.
It's like if they're addicted to like self-development porn. You know, it's like,
Pretty much. But that porn's probably more expensive. Look, man, porn's free on the internet. Tony Robbins is not free.
Well, here's the thing about self-development books. Every single person who has bought one has bought one before. A different one. Yes. So why didn't that one work?
Oh, no, I couldn't resonate with that guy. He didn't talk to me. He just wasn't speaking to me when I was reading. He wasn't speaking to anyone, okay? He was speaking to his accountant. And
well, frankly,
how many books have I sold this week?
In terms of like motivation for achieving whatever it is, Think and Grow Rich is pretty much the top of the echelon there.
Exactly.
Now if you read that, what else do you need to read on that topic other than that?
And just about every book that you're reading now, so some modern person or whatever, they got their inspiration from Think and Grow Rich. That's why that book's been around for over 100 years. Okay, if this was working 100 years ago, okay, cool. Instead of somebody who just came out with a book 2 weeks ago, and this is like his 8th in a series. I'm like, come on, man. So
yeah, and look, I'm guilty of that. You know what I mean? It's like I'll put my hand up. Like I genuinely love researching and reading. So I'll like read books. I'll attend seminars. Like I'll just do all that stuff. And at the same time, I do also try and do my own stuff so that I don't get trapped in that kind of the roundabout of just consuming. And I think people get so caught up in that they feel like they need that book and like they can't take action until they've read that thing or they think that program. And they think that it's like, no, it's a bit like, someone gambling. They're like, no, the next one I'm going to win. Next one I'm going to win.
Yeah.
And it's a bit like that.
Pretty much.
Next seminar I'm going to take action. I'm going to follow my dreams. I'm going to go and quit my, my
job.
The
problem with a lot of these success type seminars is you go there, it's a positive environment. Everyone's there because they want to be successful, whatever the theme is. And then usually there's a high energy speaker and people are dancing in the crowd, having a good time. People are hugging every 5 seconds. Like Tony Robbins. I mean, you're hugging every person in there before you leave, jumping up on the chair. Now, so people have this real exuberant experience and they're like, man, I'm going to go take on the world once I walk through those doors. And then, but before they've even got just in the cab back to their hotel room, they realize, I'm back in the world again.
Well, the reality is they're not around that many high energy people back in the real world.
Yeah.
So when you're in that room full of high energy people, like, well, I like this. Well, guess what? 9 times out of 10, this is not your reality.
Yeah,
so
life's not a rock concert.
Yeah, so
the way you feel at a rock concert, that's not
every day, man, all day.
That's not a daily.
There's no way you can handle
daily
that.
Experience,
And there's no way you can handle that if it was like that every day, all day. You would
even for the guys in the band, it's not that experience. There's going to be days where you're like, "Fuck, man, we got to do this shit. Let's get out there and do it."
Yeah.
I mean, I always thought about like, can you imagine? I don't know what you guys think about this, but imagine like being the Rolling Stones or one of those bands that's been around for like centuries, and you've got to go on stage and you've got to play that same, that same strum, that same guitar bass, doom, doom, doo, doo, doo.
And that's why Keith Richards looks the way he does. Okay, Keith Richards has been dead for about 50 years now. No one knows it. They just cut his corpse up and it rotates every now and then.
He's like Weekend at Bernie's. They just wheel him out there, prop him off.
But it's true though. Even they some days go like, fuck this concert. I would so much rather just have a cup of tea.
Me personally, I don't do well with that level of repetition, so I would lose it. I like to do something, hit it hard, and I'm like, you know what? I'm done with that shit. Time to move on to something else. So to get out there and people still want to hear those same songs you did 40 years ago.
Prince was like, no, I'm not going to do Purple Rain again, ever.
Yeah.
Shut up.
He's like,
I got new music. I have a lot of new music. Well, it sucks. Well, don't come.
I mean, Iron Maiden does that too. They go, look, we're only going to play our new record. And the audience gets pissed off. They go, we want to hear Run to the Hills.
It's the whole thing.
Listen to Spotify with that. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, exactly. You can stay home and listen to that.
That's how depressing that must be. That must be so depressing though. Like you keep on putting new material. It's like, shut up.
Well, there's a certain point in a band's career where they don't need to make a new song ever again because no one wants to hear it. They just want to hear their previous catalog, right? But for the band, so a lot of bands don't. They're like, fuck it. We're basically a cover band of our own material. We're just going to go out there and keep recycling that stuff. And then there's other bands that are like, we have to keep this interesting for us. Otherwise, we can't sustain this.
Otherwise, you die. I think you creatively die.
Even if we're not going to play all that new music live, we have to at least make it so that we're still in that creative world of producing new material, not just regurgitating stuff we did 30 years ago.
Stuck in time warp, man. Everybody else is advancing and moving forward, and they end up talking. No, go ahead.
No, some people, no, I mean, some people in your life want you to stay in certain areas because it makes them comfortable.
Makes them comfortable, yeah.
Right.
I'm sure you've dealt with that, Sincere. It's like, oh man, I loved it when you used to be a DJ.
I still hear it to this day. Like, what is it going to take to get you out of retirement? I'm like, brother. So, like I always say, there's this one quote I said, look, man, you don't have to set yourself on fire to make other people feel warm. Okay. So that's the thing about it. You don't have to sit there and make these people feel comfortable because they haven't chosen to get out of 1985. Okay.
Yeah.
Or move from 1992. I'm like, come on, man. This is like 20 something years ago. Like, we're in a different millennium now. Can you come up here now? Can you move forward? I'm like, geez.
But with music, a lot of times they want to hear those old songs because
they want to feel those old feelings.
Takes them back. Yeah, exactly.
They want to remember what they felt that night when they were 18 and they saw me DJ. And I'm like, dude, you're not 18. You're 40 now. So, and guess what?
I mean, it's like people our age.
So guess what? I don't want to think about the feelings I felt that night when I was like 20 years old playing that record or whatever else. Because I saw freaking 14-year-old kids high on ecstasy in the middle of the floor and people stepping them. I don't want to relive that time ever again at raves. I'm past that, especially as a father. I don't want to relive those moments because it makes me wonder, like, I don't want that for my kids.
Well, I mean, those are healthy responses because you want to be in the now anyway.
Right.
So, like, I always laugh at people that are, let's say, our age, since they're in their 40s, and they only listen to music that they listened to when they were in high school and college.
No.
They don't listen to any new bands. They don't know about any new scenes.
Right.
And they're like, oh, music sucks now, like that kind of theory.
You're going to be that guy.
Yeah, exactly. To me, there's more good music out now than there ever has been. There's just so much crap that you have to dig through it to find it. But it's there. So I think just staying abreast of new material, new bands, new talent, going to see these bands live, it keeps you youthful because you're staying current rather than, I'm going to go see Alice in Chains, which in an audience looks like like an old Holmes place or something. I mean, we were at Megadeth not too long ago, and I'm looking around. I was like, man, the people in front of us look like my dad.
Come on,
it's like
they put the death in Megadeth, okay?
Yeah, like I saw Killswitch Engage. It's all young people. That's cool.
Yeah. Isn't it the ACD? Isn't it Brian Johnson? I don't know if it's
yeah.
I read that somewhere.
Yeah.
Didn't he say that he was going to postpone his tour because he might be deaf? He might risk deafness or something.
Yeah, well, or he's going to risk deafness. Yeah.
See, that's called a hint. Okay.
Time to you should have put earplugs in 30 years ago.
Dude, you're going to literally lose. Oh, man. Oh.
Yeah, but it's funny you see that in almost every industry, man. Because even, I just did like a defensive pistol course a couple of weeks ago, and there was a couple of guys there, man. They've been doing this. They've been firearms instructors for so many years. They're vets and they were ex-law enforcement, so they've been spending a lot of time behind firearms, and now they're instructors, and they've been doing that, let's say 10, 15 years, and they still kind of have these old ways. But the thing is, some of these guys have, especially because they're old school, a lot of them didn't necessarily do healthy things like wear the best ear protection back in the days, or they may have had some experience when they were deployed and all that. And it's to the point now, like, you're giving them instruction or you're talking to them, they can't hear a freaking word you're saying, but like, they're 40 years old. If they have the hearing of like an 80-year-old man, it's so crazy, man. It's just like, gosh, little things like that you take for granted in your youth. You go to all these concerts or whatever, you're right by the speaker, because you want to feel the music. I'm like, yeah, tell you what, you're going to feel that music 20 years from now when you can't hear the music. I was one of those DJs, man, just like I was very, very particular about my headphones, big time, because I always focused on my hearing. I did not want to be that guy that's pretty much, you got to turn everything up sky high when you're 35, 40 years old. You're watching TV and it sounds like you got surround sound. You're in a theater. But all you're trying to do is you're just sitting there in the middle of the day watching a game show. I don't want to hear Steve Harvey that loud, man. His booming and screaming or whatever else. But a lot of these guys have not taken care of their ears, and you're talking to them, they turn their head sideways. I'm sorry, man, say that again. I'm like, dude, you're 40. What the hell's wrong with you? So it's just like all those little things, man, that you take for granted in your youth. And I used to stress the guys back then, like, dude, you need to put your headphones on. You need better headphones. Don't just go for the cheap stuff. Get something that's going to really properly, like, help your ears out. I said, because you're going to be thanking me 20 years from now. Some of those guys, I see them now, they're pretty much deaf in one ear. And it's so crazy, man. So I'm just like, I don't ever want to be that guy.
So. But isn't it just history repeating itself? It seems like, every generation gets the parents and say, look, you're going to fuck yourself up for like the 20 years.
Exactly.
Like,
and then it's like, shut up, old man. You know what you're talking
about. No one wants to hear that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's like, you're a buzzkill, man. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, it's like, dude.
I don't want to hear your bullshit about losing my hearing. Screw you. Somebody will make a solution.
Your bullshit.
It's like, don't worry, old man. Someone will make a solution to that by the time I'm your age.
Exactly.
It's that mentality.
Someone will make an app about it.
I was like, I'm just going to merge with my computer at that age and live in there. Ray Kurzweil said we're all going to be living in Tron. I'll be fine.
Oh man.
Well, cool, man. Great talking to you, Mark. And you have a really cool YouTube channel. You have a lot of good clips you put up. So where can people find out more information about that and anything else you have going on?
Yeah, so people can go over and check out my YouTube channel. It's www.youtube.com/Mark Leruste. I've also got a podcast if you want to go and check it out. It's called The Unconventionalist. It's on iTunes and SoundCloud. And I hang out mostly on Twitter at Mark Leruste. And I've also got a website which is being updated, but it's www.markleruste.com. And yeah, that's it. Facebook and all that stuff. The usual business.
So my book. You're already living through your computer. You hang out on Twitter.
Yeah.
You got to get out in the real world, man. What are you doing?
I know. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if there's one thing
we're all one step away from living in Tron as it is. People are like, oh, that movie's far-fetched. I was like, yeah. And this is a guy who's been on Facebook for 8 hours.
With some of the clothing that's all electrified and lit up like that, I'm like, yeah, you're pretty much in Tron, dude. Look at that. Look at that outfit you're wearing right now. So it's just a matter of time.
But it's so true, though. It's just so which is insane because I've helped so many people go through this process, and I'm going through it at the moment, and it's like just how easy it is to just hide behind your laptop and just feel like you're being productive because you're doing all this content stuff, you're writing blogs, you're doing podcasts, you're doing videos. But are you actually speaking to people? Are you actually making a living? Like, are you actually putting yourself out there? And that's where I'm at. I think the big journey is actually get away from the laptop and go in front of people and just do your work and just, stop procrastinating by posting like cat videos on Facebook.
Yeah. Awesome, man. So yeah, man, we appreciate you coming by the show, man.
Thanks so much.
Talk to you later down, especially when get the other book out there. We got to bring you back on and talk about that.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, guys. Really, really. Thanks so much. And yeah, hope to have you guys again on my podcast too.
Awesome, man. Appreciate that. All right. Take care, Mark. Appreciate it, man.
Sounds good, Mark. Thanks a lot, man. You take care.
Bye.
Take care.
I'm hanging up.
Yeah, man. Get off the line, man.
Okay.
Get off the line. We got stuff to do over here.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's our friend Mark Leruste. Check him out on YouTube. Check out his website. Really great material. And also make sure to check us out by using that coupon code LLA. Go get 10% off the best nutrition supplements around. Definitely get my new supplement, Red, which is a natural energizer and adrenal support product. It's a killer. Anyone who wakes up tired, you need more energy for your workouts, you just need more energy in general to thrive, this is the product to really help rejuvenate everything. So use that coupon code LLA and get 10% off at MikeMahler.com.
And you can use the same coupon code at newwarriortraining.com and get 10% off of everything over there. From all you coffee lovers and tea lovers over there, you can get your Sharia doors, use that same coupon code, get 10% off of that, as well as the weight management course, which is pretty much set at your own pace. So therefore, you can take charge of your health, your fitness, your nutrition, learn about it, man, and know how to really put an action plan into place and not sit there and be at the mercy of someone just pretty much trying to tell you, like, you need to eat like I do or do what I do or be on this type of diet or do this type of training or whatever because it works for me. Forget how it's going to work for you. This helps you figure out what does work for you. And like I said, you get to do it at your own pace. So check out that weight management program, man. A lot of great feedback coming from that. So you can hop on that as well. And also you can use that for my body weight training DVD, ebooks over there, all that right there, newwarriortraining.com. Also, you can head over to Patreon and become a monthly supporter of the show at patreon.com/LLA podcast and continue to be a monthly supporter of the LLA show and keep it going and growing. And then that third option is always to go over to, I'm about to say statistics, so to Stitcher and iTunes and leave us a review, rate us, share the episode with all your friends, all that, because that also helps the show keep going and growing as well.
And if you can't figure out how to do any of this, it just means you need to go talk to your doctor, see if your head is up your ass, and then see if he or she can pull it right out of there so you can actually see stuff. You'll find your hearing's better. You can see better. You know? Certainly smells better. All of your senses are just going to come alive when you solve that problem.
All right, folks. That's going to wrap it up for this week. We'll catch you on the next show. All right. Take care.
Take care, everyone.